It's long been a cliche that dating in Eastern Europe, in South America, in Southeast Asia, basically anywhere except the West, is much easier than in the West for most men. The reasons people usually give for this is something along the lines of woke culture, making it very hard to date women, the hyper-competitive nature of dating in the West, sometimes the superficiality of it. However, even though I personally have found dating very difficult in the West, a lot of this has left a bad taste in my mouth. And because a lot of it has kind of been based on half-truths, and it seems a bit unrealistic. And the thing that really gets me, the thing that really throws me off about it, is that it blames Western women too much. It makes Western women out to be the bad guys. And that has never sat well with me. However, I've been travelling around Albania for the past few weeks. I've been living in Tirana for about a fortnight, and I've just moved to Kosovo, where I've been filming videos, I've been tutoring remotely, I've been doing a lot of stuff. And I have met a lot of women here as well. And what I do have to say is the hype is very real. So definitely is much easier to date women here. But I want to give this topic like a proper rundown, because it's much more complex than what people make it out to be. And it's not as simple as just women are evil, like Western women are evil. But there is a serious matter that needs to be given attention. So there are a few reasons why I think dating is easier here. To be honest, I don't really like using the word dating, because dating is not really done here. And I think a lot of guys, they don't really thrive very well in the dating culture in general. It just doesn't work for them. So maybe dating's the wrong word to use, but you know what I mean, just kind of meeting women, having romantic relationships. It's much easier here. And there are a few reasons why I think it's easier. Some of them feel very superficial, some of them less superficial. So the first one that I've noticed that's very weird is that, and this might sound a bit weird to some people, but I think it says a lot. One reason why I think it's easier is because there are just better places to go on dates here. It's really interesting. When I was living in the West, I've lived in London, I've lived in Oxford and stuff like that, and I was meeting women through dating apps mainly, or maybe I'd, cold approach women or whatever. One of the hardest things I found was actually finding a place to go on the date. I actually found that really difficult, a really massive stumbling block. I'd get a girl interested to go on a date with me, great, and then I'd have to stop and think, fuck, where am I going to take her? And it's not, I'd find somewhere to take, I wanted to show initiative by suggesting somewhere to go on a date with her, but it took me a bit of thought. I had to think about it. I had to be like, right, where do I actually want to take her? Okay, I want to take her somewhere interesting, somewhere I like, because I want to show her into my world, and it's difficult. A lot of places in the UK, I don't really the culture of going out in the UK is not that great, because everywhere's expensive. A lot of places just are too formal, The pub feels like a bit of a neutral zone a lot of the time. And yeah, it's kind of, I just have to think about where I take these girls on a date a lot of the time. It's just really funny, because I've just been thinking about it here. I have a lot of videos to edit, so I'll go out and I'll get a coffee somewhere and edit a video and stuff like that. And I just love the kind of coffee shop culture here in Albania and in Kosovo. partly because it's quite easy. Like there's just something quite nice about it. That you just go to a cafe somewhere, pay like €1 for a double espresso or a macchiato, and you can just sit there, edit your videos. You can smoke. You know, the waiter comes to the counter and pay. You pay at the counter. You pay in cash. All these kind of little, almost superficial things about it, I really like. You know, and the cafes here, like, it's not like a Pretz or a Starbucks or some sort of, there's this expression, isn't there, kind of a lesbian cafe, which is obviously a bit, not very PC to say, but you know what I mean, like they're kind of, you know, really sort of premium cafes where everyone there is kind of got a little they-them badge and they've all got dyed hair and the coffee's really nice, but it's extremely expensive. There's just, cafes around here, like every cafe's the same. You just get what you pay for, you know, which is like a very good coffee. You know, every coffee here is really nice, much nicer than in the UK. It's all very cheap. It's all the same price, and there's no sort of, people aren't trying to perform here. You know, they're not just, every cafe you just get the same thing. It's a good espresso. It's a nice vibe. It's a fun vibe. Lots of people of lots of different generations go there. You get old people, young people. You get groups of young people. You get groups of old people. You know, people smoke. Maybe you smoke, maybe you don't. But it adds to the atmosphere. You can't deny. You can smoke indoors. You know, pay with cash. It's just nice. You know, the people at the cafes aren't depressed. You know, this is a small thing, but it makes such a difference. Like, if you go to a Pretz, if you've ever done this in London, you go to a Pretz and you just look at the people at the counter. They always look so fucking depressed. Like, it's really sad. It really affects your mood. Like, you see these guys at the counter when you order a coffee or something in a Pret. They always look depressed. They always look stressed. They don't look happy to see you. You don't talk to them. They just take their order, they're looking at the screen the whole time, that's it. And then someone else gives you your coffee. Meanwhile here, you can kind of just sit down anywhere, get your laptop out, and some nice guy comes over and he just says, what do you want? You know, and you just say, oh yeah, one coffee please, one espresso, and the same guy puts down the coffee, and then you drink it, you sit there for half an hour, have a smoke, look around, you know, read a book, edit a video, do some writing, whatever you like doing. And then whenever you're ready, just make eye contact with them. And it's the same guy, he comes to your table, he says, oh yeah, £1 please, €1 please, or, you know, 100 lek if it's in Albanian. Give them the money, and it's just a much more pleasant experience. It's a much more pleasant experience. Yeah, like the espresso tastes good. You know, coffee shops this is the other thing. Like coffee shops in the UK, there's a real varying quality. You know, if you go to a Pretz, you go to a Starbucks, you go to a Costa, the coffee is okay. It's okay, but it's not amazing. You know, especially if you get like an espresso in a Pretz. It tastes fucking vile. I don't know why. It tastes awful. You know, it's in a paper cup. You know, blah blah. But if you go if you go to like a nice coffee place, you know, you go to one of these kind of lesbian cafes or something, the coffee tastes good. It almost tastes too good, the coffee. You know, and there's almost this kind of fetish around good coffee in these shops where it's a really big thing how good the coffee is, and there's special, you can choose your beans and stuff like that. But there's none of that here, you know. All coffees are very good. They're not off the scale good. You don't choose which beans you get. You don't, you know, there's none of this crap. There's a respect for the product they're making. They do it well and they leave it at that. And I love that. I really love that. And the other thing is you can order a beer as well. And this might sound like a small difference, but I like that as well. I like the kind of, that there's not a separation between drinking places and coffee places. You know, I love pub culture in the UK. It's got a lot worse over the past few years. But I still like really believe in pub culture and stuff like that. But what I don't like about it is you can't I mean, you can, I have done this in the past, but you can't really go to a Spoons and get a coffee. It feels a bit weird, even if you do it feels a bit wrong. You know, if you're going to a pub, you're going to have a beer, you're probably going to have a few beers and you're going to get a bit pissed, right? If you go to a coffee shop, you're going to have one coffee and be very dignified and respectful. But in cafes here, you can just do both. You can do both. And the culture around alcohol is much nicer as well. You know, and a lot of people observe this about European countries, continental countries. You know, like you can go to a cafe at 7 o'clock in the evening and just order a beer. You know, order a Peroni or, you know, a bottle of Peroni or a Cortaccia or, like, you know, one of the local beers here. And yeah, there's something about that I like as well. So anyway, what does this really have to do with dating? Well, the thing is, and this feels like a small thing, but I think with this stuff, it's often like the devil's in the detail with dating in the UK. The devil's in the detail. And it's like, I'm not using the dating apps around here, but if I met a girl on Tinder or in Hinge here, I wouldn't think, oh, now I have to figure out a place where I'm going to take her. I would just think, oh great, let's go to this place. Straight away, I'd know like 3 or 4 places we can go. And yeah, like I say, that in and of itself is quite small, but the knock-on effects of that are huge, because all of a sudden you're not putting on a show, you're not thinking about what impression you want to make when you go somewhere, because these are places that you go regularly because it's cheap and it's nice. Obviously, I'm sure if you're a local, it's a bit more expensive here, but one other thing that's quite interesting about cafes here is the prices are very consistent everywhere you go, and part of that is because the coffee shop culture is so strong here. So even though the wages aren't very high and stuff like that, the culture kind of keeps it still relatively low. And you know, that's the other thing you see, even though like the wages aren't as good here as the West, you see everyone in coffee shops all the time. You know, it's not like, you know, you go to a Pretz or a Cafe Nero or something in the UK, and it, you know, it feels like a bit more of a spend to do it in the UK. That I think for a local Albanian it doesn't. It's just part of the culture to like go to a coffee shop and stuff. So that's a tiny thing, but yeah, the ramifications of that are huge, because all of a sudden you're letting a woman into your world. You know, you're not letting her into kind of a version of yourself. Like when I went on dates in Oxford, when I lived in Oxford, or when I lived in Manchester, or when I lived in London, often the place I'd take a girl on a date I'd never been to before. You know, I would, you know, best case scenario, I'd think, oh, I like that place, let's go there. But normally I'd be like, okay, especially if it's in London, bloody hell, I mean, in London, you match with some girl who lives like 50-minute tubes right away, and you've got to find somewhere to meet her. And you go somewhere for the first time, you go to a pub for the first time, and it's kind of like, what you're saying is like, oh shit.